Chapter 95. Accepting information given by a truthful person. Chapter 1. Acceptance of the information given by one truthful person in about all matters. Narrated Malik. We came to the Prophet, and we were young men, nearly of equal ages, and we stayed with him for 20 nights. Allah's Messenger was a very kind man, and when he realized our longing for our families, he asked us about those whom we had left behind. When we informed him, he said, "Go back to your families and stay with them and teach them religion and order them to do good deeds." The Prophet mentioned things, some of which I remembered and some I did not. Then he said, "Pray as you have seen me pray, and when it is the time of prayer, one of you should pronounce the call Adhan for the prayer, and the eldest of you should lead the prayer." Narrated Ibn Masud. Allah's Messenger said, "The call for prayer, Adhan of Bilal, should not stop any one of you from taking his suhud, for he pronounces the Adhan in order that whoever among you is praying the night prayer may return to eat his suhud, and whoever among you is sleeping may get up, for it is not yet dawn when it is like this." Yahya, the sub-narrator, stretched his 2 index fingers sideways. Narrated Abdullah bin Umar. The Prophet said, "Bilal pronounces the Adhan at night, so that you may eat and drink till Ibn Maktum pronounces the Adhan for the Fajr prayer." Narrated Abdullah. The Prophet led us in sujood prayer and prayer 5 rakats. Somebody asked him whether the prayer had been increased. He, the Prophet, said, "And what is that?" Then they, the people, replied, "You have prayed 5 rakat." Then the Prophet offered 2 prostrations of Sahih after he had finished his prayer with the taslim. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger finished his prayer after offerings 2 rakat only. Dhul Yadain asked him whether the prayer had been reduced or you had forgotten. The Prophet said, "Is Dhul Yadain speaking the truth?" The people said, "Yes." Then Allah's Messenger stood up and performed another 2 rakat, and then finished prayer with taslim, and then said the takbir, and performed a prostration similar to or longer than his ordinary prostrations. Then he raised his head, said takbir, and prostrated, and then raised his head, Sahih prostrations. Narrated Abdullah bin Umar. While the people were at Quba offering the morning prayer, suddenly a person came to them saying, Tonight divine inspiration has been revealed to Allah's Messenger, and he has been ordered to face the Kaaba in prayers. Therefore, you people should face it." Their faces were towards Sham, so they turned their faces towards the Kaaba at Mecca. Narrated Al-Bara. When Allah's Messenger arrived at Medina, he prayed facing Jerusalem for 16 or 17 months, but he wished that he would be ordered to face the Kaaba, so Allah revealed, "Verily, we have seen the turning of your face towards the heaven. Surely we shall turn you to a prayer, direction, Qibla, that shall please you." 244. Thus, he was directed towards the Kaaba. A man prayed the Asr prayer with the prophet, and then went out, and passing by some people from the Ansar. And he said, I testify that I have prayed with the prophet, and he, the prophet, has prayed facing the Kaaba. Thereupon they who were bowing in the Asr prayer turned towards the Kaaba. Narrated Anas bin Malik. I used to offer drinks prepared from infused dates to Abu Talha al-Ansari, Abu Ubada bin al-Jarrah, and Ubay bin Ka'b. Then a person came to them and said, all alcoholic drinks have been prohibited. Abu Talha then said, O Anas, get up and break all these jars. So I got up and took a mortar belonging to us and hit the jars with its lower part till they broke. Narrated Hudayfa. The Prophet said to the people of Najran, I will send to you an honest person who is really trustworthy. The companion of the Prophet each desired to be that person, but the Prophet sent Abu Ubaidah. Narrated Anas. The Prophet said, for every nation there is an Amin, honest, trustworthy person. And the Amin of this nation is Abu Ubaidah. Narrated Umar. There was a man from the Ansar who was a friend of mine. If he was not present in the company of Allah's Messenger, I used to be present with Allah's Messenger. I would tell him what I used to hear from Allah's Messenger, and when I was absent from Allah's Messenger, he used to be present with him, and he would tell me what he used to hear from Allah's Messenger. Narrated Ali. The Prophet sent an army and appointed some man their commander. The man made a fire and then said to the soldiers, enter it. Some of them intended to enter it, while some others said, we have run away from it, embraced Islam to save ourselves from the fire. They mentioned that to the Prophet, and he said about people who had intended to enter the fire, if they had entered it, they would have remained in it till the day of resurrection. Then he said to others, no obedience for evil deeds. Obedience is required only in what is good. Narrated Abu Huraira and Zayd bin Khalid. Two men sued each other before the Prophet. Narrated Abu Huraira. While we were with Allah's Messenger, a Bedouin got up and said, O Allah's Messenger, settle my case according to Allah's book, laws. Then his opponent got up and said, O Allah's Messenger, he has said the truth. Settle his case according to Allah's book, laws, and allow me to speak. He said, my son was a laborer for this man, and he committed illegal sexual intercourse with his wife. The people told me that my son should be stoned to death, but I ransomed him with 100 sheep and a slave girl. Then I asked the religious learned people, and they told me that his wife should be stoned to death, and my son should receive 100 lashes and be sentenced to 1 year of exile. The Prophet said, by him in whose hands my life is, I will judge between you according to Allah's book, laws. As for the slave girl and the sheep, they are to be returned. And as for your son, he shall receive 100 lashes and will be exiled for 1 year. You, O Unais, addressing a man from Bani Aslam, go tomorrow morning to the wife of this man, and if she confesses, then stone her to death. The next morning Unais went to the wife and she confessed, and he stoned her to death. Chapter 2. The Prophet sent As-Zubayr alone to get information regarding the enemy. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. On the day of the Battle of the Trench, the Prophet called the people to bring news about the enemy. As-Zubayr responded to his call. He called them again, and As-Zubayr responded to his call again. Then he called them for the third time, and again As-Zubayr responded to his call. Whereupon the Prophet said, "Every Prophet has his Hawairi, helper, and As-Zubayr is my Hawari." Chapter 3. Enter not the Prophet's houses unless permission is given to you. Narrated Abu Musa. The Prophet entered a garden and told me to guard its gate. Then a man came and asked permission to enter. The Prophet said, "Permit him and give him the good news that he will enter paradise." Behold, it was Abu Bakr. Then Umar came, and the Prophet said, "Admit him and give him the good news that he will enter paradise." Then Uthman came, and the Prophet said, "Admit him and give him the good news that he will enter paradise." Narrated Umar. I came, and behold, Allah's Messenger was staying on a masruba, attic room, and a black slave of Allah's Messenger was at the top of its stairs. I said to him, "Tell the Prophet that there is Umar bin al-Khattab asking for permission to enter." Then he admitted me. Chapter 4. The Prophet used to send commanders and messengers one after another. Narrated Abdullah bin Abbas. Allah's Messenger sent a letter to Khosrav and told his messenger to give it first to the ruler of Bahrain and tell him to deliver it to Khosrav. When Khosrav had read it, he tore it into pieces. Al-Suri said, I think Ibn al-Musayyab said, Allah's Messenger invoked Allah to tear them, Khosrav and his followers, into pieces. Narrated Salama bin al-Aqwa. Allah's Messenger said to a man from the tribe of Al-Aslam, proclaim among your people or the people on the day of Ashura. Tenth of Muharram. Whosoever has eaten anything should fast for the rest of the day, and whoever has not eaten anything should complete his fast. Chapter 5. Wasat of the Prophet Sas to the Arab delegates. Narrated Ibn Abbas. When the delegate of Abd al-Qais came to Allah's Messenger, he said, Who are the delegates? They said, The delegate are from the tribe of Rabia. The Prophet said, Welcome, O the delegate, and welcome, O people. Neither you will have any disgrace, nor will you regret. They said, O Allah's Apostle, between you and us, there are the infidels of the tribe of Mudar. So please order us to do something good, religious deeds, that by acting on them we may enter paradise, and that we may inform our people, whom we have left behind, about it. They also asked the Prophet about drinks. He forbade them from 4 things and ordered them to do 4 things. He ordered them to believe in Allah and asked them, Do you know what is meant by belief in Allah? They said, Allah and His Apostle know best. He said, to testify that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, the One, who has no partners with Him, and that Muhammad is Allah's Messenger, and to offer prayers perfectly, and to pay zakat, the narrator thinks that fasting in Ramadan is included, and to give 1/5 of the war booty to the state. Then he forbade four drinking utensils: ad-duba, al-56, al-hantam, al-masafat, and al-nakir, or probably al-mukayyar. And then the Prophet said, "Remember all these things by heart, and preach it to those whom you have left behind." Chapter 6. News reported by one woman. Narrated Tawbah al-Anbari. Ash-Shubi asked me, "Did you notice how Al-Hassan used to narrate hadiths from the prophets?" I stayed with Ibn Umar for about 2 or 1.5 years, and I did not hear him narrating anything from the Prophet except his hadith. He, Ibn Umar, said, "Some of the companions of the Prophet, including Saad, were going to eat meat. But one of the wives of the Prophet called them, saying, 'It is the meat of a mastigur.' The people then stopped eating it. On that Allah's Messenger said, 'Carry on eating, for it is lawful,' or said, 'There is no harm in eating it, but it is not from my meals.'"